I am the Philosophical Bachelor, and today I'll be talking about whether there is hope for a universal history with a cosmopolitan aim. Immanuel Kant, in his essay Idea for a Universal History with a Cosmopolitan Aim, presents 9 intriguing propositions on how a philosophical history of man can be achieved. All animals have a purpose, and man's purpose is to use his reason. We struggle to live with ourselves and with others in a society, but society is the means by which humanity can reach its fullest potential. Extending his idea of a society of men to a society of nations, such a federation of states will ultimately lead to a universal cosmopolitan condition. Those setbacks are inevitable. This is the universal world history Kant envisions, which is according to a plan of nature that aims at the perfect silver union of the human species. However, when he published this essay in 1784, he could not have foreseen the twin threats of climate change and nuclear apocalypse that might drive mankind to extinction if we are not careful. Frightening as they are, these threats could be the opportunity we need to finally unite as one species, to overcome our joint difficulties and reach the cosmopolitan aim Kant dreams of. According to Kant, there is little pattern in the behavior of individuals because of our free will. However, when man is considered as a species, patterns appear and can be recognized as a steadily progressing through slow development of its original predispositions, proceeding unnoticed as by a guiding thread, according to an aim of nature. He believes it is a job for the philosopher to attempt to find such an aim of nature. Kant's first proposition to this end is premised on how all animals have a purpose due to their natural predispositions. He asserts that the theological doctrine of nature is valid since animal organs all have a useful function. Kant cautions that if we depart from that principle, then we no longer have a lawful nature, but a purposelessly playing nature, and desolate chance takes the place of the guideline of reason. He next proposes that the goal of man's natural predispositions is to use his capacity to reason, since we are the only animal to have that capacity. However, the complete development of this capacity will develop only at the species level and not at the individual level. This is because the capacity to reason requires practice and education to grow, which means individuals have to live inordinately long lives to develop their reason maximally. Even for the species, mankind would require many generations, each handing down its wisdom, to finally arrive at the complete development of man's reason. The next 4 propositions deal with how man's struggle with himself and others is a process of refinement. Kant posits that nature is frugal and does not do the unnecessary. It has given man reason, with free will embedded in that reason. Hence, beyond the physical body granted to man by nature, man needs to create everything else, such as how to feed himself, provisions for safety, and a satisfactory life, including character traits such as an ability to share. Nature does not guarantee man a good life, but leaves it to him, that through his labor he might become worthy of well-being. Chapter 1: Man and Society. Part of this well-being is living in society. However, man is conflicted in his relations to others. Man's propensity to enter into society is combined with a thoroughgoing resistance that constantly threatens to break up the society, because man also wants to retain his own individuality, writes Kant. This relation to his fellow man creates an insatiable desire to possess and even to dominate. Such competition, possibly unhealthy at a micro level, becomes a source of progress at a societal level. Kant believes this is nature's design. Nature knows better what is good for his species. It wills discord, he writes. Kant explains that only in society can humanity reach its peak. Society needs to balance individual freedom with institutional power to develop a just civil constitution. Some coercion is necessary so that men can live in society with one another. An antagonism exists between men, But Kant believes it is this tension and struggle that makes the individuals strong, the way trees in a wood need to compete for sunshine to achieve a beautiful straight growth. He attributes man's cultural achievements to this competition. All culture and art that adorn humanity and the most beautiful social order are the fruits of unsociability, he writes. Because of man's self-serving nature, Kant proposes that man needs a master, one that will compel him to obey laws so that everyone in society can live freely. However, this master must by necessity also be a human being, who will then be in need of a master, since any leader without someone hired to control his behavior will run awry. This supreme authority will need the right understanding of principles of governance and possess vast experience and a good nature. Kant believes the conjunction of all three requirements in a single person to be nigh impossible. Chapter 2. From Societies to States. Having articulated his ideas on an individual and societal level, Kant moves on to how states coexist with other states in his 7th and 8th propositions. States also have an antagonism similar to human beings because states are composed of people. This leads to repeated cycles of arming for war, and its resulting devastation. These cycles ultimately lead states to conclude that they should form a federation of nations, where nations big and small can have peace, not from their own might, but from the unity of the federation. However, such federations can fail. The internal civil constitutions of the individual states then needs to be modified alongside agreements and laws with other states to create a commonwealth. Hence, Kant sees war as only so many attempts to bring about new relationships between states. In all this, Kant sees a hidden plan of nature in the history of man towards such a perfect state constitution and universal cosmopolitan condition, where nature can then fully develop all its predispositions in humanity. In line with the development he has outlined, Kant's 9th and final proposition speaks to how philosophers can hence create a universal world history according to a plan of nature that aims at the perfect silver union of the human species. Chapter 4. Hope for Our Future. Kant's vision for a universal history demonstrates his optimism and hope for mankind. Despite all the conflicts and setbacks at the individual, societal, national, and federation levels, Kant sees these painful events as a process of refinement for our species, preparing us to achieve finally a state of perfection. However, when he published this essay in 1784, he could not have foreseen a world that would possess enough nuclear weapons to end human life on the planet, or in more optimistic scenarios, return man to the probable Stone Age. Even if man remains sober enough not to trigger a nuclear conflict, our planet faces an even more imminent and pressing danger of climate change. In the near future, an increased frequency of natural disasters, famines, droughts, and other humanitarian crises caused by climate change may exacerbate the competition for scarce resources needed for survival, such as water, food, and fuel. This struggle for vital resources, compounded with the antagonism between states, might be the trigger for devastating conflicts, including nuclear war. Kant has written that the journey towards perfection will not be easy, but he did not consider the case where mankind has wiped itself off the face of the earth before it could reach the pinnacle of perfection. Not all hope is lost. Kant could still ultimately be proven right if our ability to reason prevails. The common threats to the planet may yet unite mankind to create novel solutions to roll back the deleterious effects of global warming and to rehabilitate the environment by taking a more responsible and sustainable path in our consumption. If all else fails, the impending threat of extinction may accelerate our quest for new worlds to inhabit. Meanwhile, we should not rest on our laurels and take it for granted that the force of nature Kant posits will ultimately return us to a good and stable equilibrium. Instead, we as a species need to unite and confront the troubles facing humanity, and in that way, we might indeed reach the cosmopolitan aim that Kant envisions for mankind.